school, we can at least make the floor of the House of Representatives their classroom. My name is Cori Bush, but Bush was not the name that my paternal ancestors in Nigeria carried. Bush was the last name forced upon them by their slave masters right here in America. My maternal ancestors carried the last name Blakeney, forced upon them by their slave masters in Pageland, South Carolina.
Arthi, there's nothing that can break or shake it at this point?
Well, listen, I don't know if you're aware of, young lady, but I am also a member of the House Freedom Caucus. So I am one of those America First patriots.
So I'll assume when you called me a young lady, it was a compliment.
Of course it was. This is my first time on the Clinton News Network. Absolutely.
Okay, that I will say was a bit, in my opinion, rude, but I'm glad you're talking to me and I will treat you with the respect that.
Hello world, wake the fuck up. This is JD of Giant TV. I have admired Cori Bush for years, from her time as an activist all the way to her foray into politics. And so far I have really nothing bad to say about the woman, her politics, or her approach to doing her job. But Cori goes hard.
And then also in opposition to the reckless manner that people in this House speak when they don't realize or don't care that they put targets on the backs of actual people, most of whom are black and brown, because of a lack of care and a lack of understanding and a lack of seeing the humanity of folks who look like Rashida Tlaib. She said,
time has expired.
She mourns for the 10,000 and she will not stop. No more.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Ceasefire now. And she takes the death threats that you all send that they
The gentlelady is no longer recognized. The gentleman from Maryland.
Unapologetically. And I love her for it. Now, before I get into it, I have to make this point. I have to point out the fact that Ms. Bush at this point is under several investigations. The most reported on is the allegation that she improperly spent campaign funds on security, most notably hiring her husband as a security contractor. Now this all is checked out so far after an initial federal probe, so far. But Ms. Bush has had multiple run-ins with stalking, intimidation tactics well before she was ever in office, well before she ever ran for office. This woman has had to change vehicles like several times within 1 year, having her car shot up multiple times. You know, some asshole actually even broke into her car and stole her iconic bullhorn. Gonna break in this woman's car and steal her bullhorn. It was probably this jackwagon, Senator Troy Nehls. Now I'm just kidding around. I'm pretty sure Troy Nehls was somewhere in Texas when all this happened. But after listening to his comments, I just had to look into this dude because I didn't really know much about Troy Nehls. I just knew he was Texas senator or something. He was, you know, a Trumpite.
I don't think he's even a licensed security guy. Paying her husband. Well, why did she try to get support from local law enforcement? Oh, that's right, we don't want local law enforcement. Maybe she wants to defund the police so she can steal more out of her campaign and pay her husband.
And the MRA, members aren't allowed to use that for security. Do you think that that's something that should be considered?
I don't know. I guess that would be something that maybe Congress should look at. I mean, if she's got some security concerns, I'm sure that Jeffries or somebody could look into it, or maybe get with her local law enforcement agency. But I bet you she don't want to go talk to the police, does she? She doesn't even support the police. But the idea to pay her thug money to try to help protect her, this and that, for what? Maybe if she wouldn't be so loud all the time, maybe she wouldn't be getting threats.
Are you saying she deserves to be threatened?
No, what I'm saying is that when you're out there talking the way she does, I'm surprised that people are probably pretty upset because she's pretty radical. She's pretty radical. And maybe she should tone it down a little bit.
Can I ask you about the Senate board?
Maybe the majority of the stalking and intimidation that Cori Bush has been the victim of has come at the hands of so-called law enforcement. Mr. Troy Nehls. Law enforcement individuals that are a lot like you. How you used to be in your former days in law enforcement. See, after looking into this dude, I figured out who the fuck he was. Now, like I said before, I don't like to judge a book by its cover, but after hearing what he had to say about this case with Cori Bush and these security funds, I thought to myself, I have to look into this dude because I just know he has a shitty background.
In this business, I understand that. But I support President Trump and his recent comments related to making the sale and distribution of fentanyl a capital crime and the use of the death penalty. I believe this strategy will address this serious problem. And maybe not, it won't solve the problem. But I believe that if you start strapping a few of these ruthless bastards to a gurney and start filling them with the same drug they were selling to kill Americans, it would bring me a great deal of satisfaction.
Now, mind you, at the time, I didn't even know he was former law enforcement. So I looked into him, and then you see citation after citation, disciplinary action after disciplinary action. This dude even got just straight outright fired. And then eventually later on became a sheriff in Richmond because of qualified immunity. You know, when Cori Bush first won that election, before she even had a chance to move to DC and put furniture in her office, I had a thought in my mind that something like this could happen to her. But I kept those thoughts to myself because I didn't want to project that into the universe. But here we are. Now, to this point, Cori Bush has vehemently denied these allegations.
First and foremost, I hold myself, my campaign, and my position to the highest levels of integrity. I also believe in transparency, which is why I can confirm that the Department of Justice is reviewing my campaign spending on security services. We are fully cooperating with this investigation, and I would like to take this opportunity to outline the facts and the truth. Since before I was sworn into office, I have endured relentless threats to my physical safety and life. As a rank and file member of Congress, I am not entitled to personal protection by the House and instead have used campaign funds as permissible to retain security services. I have not used any federal tax dollars for personal security services. Any reporting that I have used funds for personal security is simply false. Absolutely ignorant, anti-Black, racist and sexist tropes by a sitting member of Congress who is a colleague. I have never even met this person. I've never even talked to him. And for him to spew something so disgusting, number one, to call my husband my thug, what qualifies him as a thug? What does he know about him to call him a thug? That is a dog whistle. And then also to tell me that, I'm being too loud. Me advocating for St. Louis is I'm being too loud. How about if you would have fixed the issues that St. Louis has? I wouldn't have to talk about it. I wouldn't have to fuss about it. But yes, I'm going to be loud, and that's okay. If I want to be loud, if I want to be quiet, that's my prerogative. Him putting his mouth on it just shows racism at its best.
But there's another problem, because Cori Bush is being attacked on two fronts, and this time from an unexpected source.
Well, we are always going to be laser focused on public safety. We have aggressively prosecuted serious and violent crimes, and we have also, for low-level nonviolent offenders, we have expanded diversion programming for opioid.
To put it poetically, I guess you could say that both Cori Bush and Wesley Bell had risen from the ashes of Ferguson.
It's what community looks like. You are in the streets, blocking the roadway. You are unlawfully assembled.
To later achieve elected office. Cori Bush would become United States Representative from Missouri's 1st District, and Bell would go on to defeat the incumbent Bob McCullum and become the first Black county prosecuting attorney in St. Louis County history. Now, I was actually glad when Wesley Bell won, but as recently as summer 23, Wesley was engaged in a battle to remove Toxic Josh Hawley, a young-faced white nationalist, a young-faced Republican Party star that represents my beautiful flyover state of Missouri.
This person works for the Department of Homeland Security. Have you fired her?
That was one of 4 answers.
Have you fired her? one, have you fired her? Don't come to this hearing room when Israel has been invaded and Jewish students are barricaded in libraries in this country and cannot be escorted out because they are threatened for their lives. You have employees who are celebrating genocide, and you are saying it's despicable for me to ask the question? Has she been fired?
Mr. Chairman. Number one, what I found despicable is the implication that this language, tremendously odious, actually it could be emblematic of the sentiments of the 260,000 men and women of the Department of Homeland Security. Number one. Number two, Senator Hawley takes an adversarial approach to me in this question, and perhaps he doesn't know my own background. Perhaps he does not know that I am the child of a Holocaust survivor. Perhaps he does not know that my mother lost almost all her family at the hands of the Nazis. And so I find his adversarial tone to be entirely misplaced. I find it to be disrespectful of me and my heritage, and I do not expect an apology, but I did want to say what I just articulated.
If you defeat him, you will, of course, go on to face Josh Hawley. Now, let's read a statement that Josh Hawley released just a short time ago about your campaign. It reads, Hawley's statement on Bell's Senate campaign. He says the Democrat primary will be a competition to see which candidate can get farther to the left by ending girls' sports and being soft on crime. We expect whoever emerges from the messy primary to be the darling of the woke left and raise tens of millions of dollars to try and buy this seat from Missourians. What's your reaction to those remarks? Rather strong.
You know, I think you want a distinction. You want to know the difference in the candidates. It's right there. When I was faced with chaos, I worked to calm tensions. When Senator Hawley was faced with chaos, he inflamed them.
But something happened. Somewhere along the way, Mr. Bell has decided not to run against Hawley and instead will challenge Cori Bush for her seat. And you know, it takes a lot to run a campaign for Senate. You know, like you have fundraising, you need a staff. I mean, it takes a lot. So for him to like just do this about face in the middle of a Senate run to turn around and then run against Cori Bush, it was kind of strange to me, but it really got me thinking about some allegations that I had been hearing lately surrounding AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. They've been accused at this point by two different Democratic politicians, Nazir Beydoun and actor-turned-politician Hill Harper. Yep, that dude. The accusation is that AIPAC offered $20 million to Hill Harper to run against fellow Democrat Rashida Tlaib, and Mr. Beydoun has said the same. Now, I just want to cite Jack McCordick's article in Mother Jones real quick, cited February 1st, 2024. He goes on to say, Bell insisted there was nothing personal about his decision, but he called Bush's statements offensive and contrasted himself to her on the new war and more generally by pledging to stand with the president. Asked by a reporter whether U.S. aid to Israel should be conditioned on adherence to international law, he responded, I think we should stand with our allies. In drawing a clear contrast with his new opponent on criminal justice issues, Bell called Bush's support for defunding the police misguided, claiming it hurt Democrats electorally. The following day, he released a list of endorsements that included a number of prominent Jewish members of the St. Louis community, as well as a handful of police chiefs in the district.
Humanity is, to me, part of the problem. And for her to be censured, she was a few weeks ago, last week, and for somebody to come to you and offer you $20 million to run against her, how did that happen? And you were quick to say no, but did you even was there a moment of
No. But let me say real quick, because Karen, this is important. Even if you don't live in Michigan, the U.S. Senate and all the legislation and all the laws we pass in that body impact you because it's federal legislation. So don't think, your Senate seats are actually national seats. It's just that Each state gets 2.
Well, Miss Bush, put on that African royal purple and grab your sword and your shield, because it's a hard fight ahead of you. Just keep bringing that fire.
Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
That's what I said.
Yeah, you niggas will be all right.